Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Well, Fade to Black. Yeah. How you doing? Today is Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. I am your host, Jimmy Church, and this is where I get to say, it's my Friday, not yours. Yeah, it's my Friday, wrapping up another amazing week here on Fade to Black. And tonight we're going to do that in style. Jason Quitt is back with us. And an amazing week. Monday night, we had Lori Spagna on with us, Raising Your Vibration. Tuesday night, Dana Louise, one of the craziest fun shows we've done in a while. This is going to sound weird. Last night, Thomas Jane was here talking about his book that's about to come out, A Human's Guide to Visiting Aliens. And then tonight, of course, Jason Quitt, who has also got a new book out, Astral Experiences. Now, I've got three major events coming up. That's right, count them, three. There's more, but right now we're announcing three. Contact in the Desert is next weekend, right here in Southern California in Palm Springs. And I just got off the phone with the good people over there at Contact in the Desert, getting some business straightened out and figuring out things. It's going to be an exciting weekend. So come and hang out with us. Jason Quitt's going to be there. Thomas Jane last night, he's going to be there. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to make this announcement. Something very cool is going to go down tomorrow for me personally. My producer here, Michelle, she's been with me for a very, very long time and books the show and handles all of my funny business. She is in town for Contact in the Desert. And tomorrow night, we're going to go out to dinner. Yeah. I get to buy Michelle dinner tomorrow night. She has earned it. And she's in town, so she's going to stop by the house, and we're going to go out. It's going to be a lot of fun and maybe take some selfies. So, yeah, here we are, Contact in the Desert, and everybody is in town. I know that Jason, we were just talking before the show, Jason gets in Thursday. I get in Thursday. I'm going to be hanging out with Jason 100% Thursday night. I cannot wait. These are my people, man. So if you're going to be at Contact in the Desert, get there early. You can get it's free tickets it's free to get in on Thursday. Come and find us. We will be hanging out somewhere down where they serve alcohol. That's for Jason. I don't drink. But we're going to be doing that down in the lounge. Just come and find all the Fadernauts. And we'll be right there. Okay, so I'll see you Thursday night and Friday night, of course. I'll be hosting the meet and greet gala party in the Crystal Ballroom. And so come and hang out with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's next weekend. Right after that, man, so that ends on June 2nd. June 17th, I'll be heading down to Peru with Brian Forrester. And I'm going to be there for 10 days and then turn around and come back. That is for the Inca Celebration of the Sun. And then right after that, I head out for the Psi Games. That's just a couple of days later, August 1st through the 3rd in Charlottesville, Virginia. The links for that are also below. And then right after that, literally a few days after that, I am in production for my TV show. So I have got a very, 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 very busy month coming up starting next week. Bear with me. You know, I'm out there getting work done and I'm going to squeeze Fade to Black in between all of that fun stuff. All right. So, with all of that, Jason Quitt is back. He's got a new book out, Astral Experiences. I have it. I'm so lucky. I get the preprint unedited version, then I get the edited version, then I get the version with the cover on the book, and then I get the next version. I get the next version. Jason makes sure I'm prepared, and so that's the new book. The links for that are below. You can go to the Crystal Sun. We've also got it up in the chat room. And now we're going to be going through all of the elements of what astral is. Okay, so it's out of body and different versions of it. We're going to do that. What he has seen, his encounters, what the entities are, spirits, who has he run into, where has he been, what has he seen outside of our reality. And he's the author of many books, including Gates of the Anunnaki, and all the books and everything else that you need for Jason is at the Crystal Sun, and the links for that are below. Before I get into a long intro and go through his extremely lengthy bio, I'm going to bypass all of that because I can. Yeah, I'm going to see him next week. I want to welcome back to Faded Black, the one and only Jason Quitt. He's right there. Jason.
Great to be back. And, I'm going to see you next week. It's amazing to see everybody again at Contact. So, I didn't even think about it because I was working so hard on this book and getting everything ready. And now it's like, it's next week.
Yeah.
So it's like perfect timing.
It's, you think,
Yeah.
you think it's such a fun event. And you're right about that. It's, what a lot of, because I used to be an attendee of conferences before, right? And so you see it as an attendee from the outside. What most people don't realize, a few get to experience this, but all of the speakers, all of the presenters, it's just a small group of friends, and it's our opportunity to hang out with each other and get caught up. We're doing stuff and working together all year long, not only, with conferences, but it's, Fade to Black, and it's TV, it's movies, we're constantly doing stuff together.
Yeah.
And you know what? Okay. I don't want you to say who, what, where, or when. I don't want you to do that. But this is how this community works. The speakers, we're all friends. I get a phone call. It's a producer for a TV network, and he says, okay, Jimmy, we're working on this, and we would like somebody like this, somebody like this, somebody like this. Give us some names and some contacts. And I go, okay, this is what you want to do. For this first one, we're going to do this. For the second one, I was for the third one, and I want you to reach out to Jason Quitt. And that's what we do. It's like that all year long. People think that you just come on the show and that's it. No, we are working with each other as a family all year long, aren't we?
We are. And, that's what makes this so special. And so when we get together, and like you said, we're going to the bar and you don't drink, I don't drink, but we still go there, right?
We still go. I'll manage. Here's the thing with hanging out with, oh, that's beautiful. What is that?
Oh, no, Pat Breeze just in the chat says, can I see your Shungite skull? So I just manifested it.
Man, just ignore Pat Breeze.
All right. I'm done. Stop.
Pat, who I love, right? I've known Pat for a long time, over 10 years. But Pat doesn't hang out anymore. He only hangs out when you crystal folks, when Ewans are on the show. Then Pat suddenly got time for me now.
Yeah. He's too busy woodworking, so
Yeah, is that what he's doing now?
Yeah,
man. Pat Breeze is amazing. God, I used to have the best conversations with that guy. He has given me more advice on what to sleep with in my bed than any other adult male, and I'm going to leave that right there. I thought you were holding up. This is meteorite here.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah, I got a bigger chunk. You know what I do have? It's on display. It's out there somewhere. I have alienite.
Alienite.
Yeah.
Haven't heard of that one.
Mm-hmm. I have some alienite. This big.
Nice.
It's crazy. It's like meteorite, right? But with like 40 other minerals.
Crazy.
Yeah, instead of, meteor, like this is like iron. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, alienite. I've got me some alienite. It's really cool. It's really cool. And where was I? Okay. All right.
Pat.
I know you want to talk
close
about
us
your
off.
book. I know you want to talk about your book. Okay.
Sure.
All right. We'll get to that. We're going to play some Quitspiracy first.
Lay it on me.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Here's the first conspiracy. Jason Quitt has been the most frequent guest on Fade to Black. 1 pipe, 2 pipes, 3 pipes, 4 pipes. What say you, Jason Quitt?
That's a tough one. I would say 3 or 4 pipes.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
Because I know Richard Doland comes on a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And but I would say I'm up there, because just with the Quitspiracy show alone, that's got to be at least 13, 14 episodes. Just that's chunk.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Okay. Oh, somebody just said 5 pipes, 4 pipes. John says 1 pipe. He did all of your research. Jessica Rodriguez coming in with 4 pipes. Let's see here. Jessica S, 4 pipes. Let's see here. Roger White, 4 pipes. Julie Rios, 5 pipes. Yeah. Everybody's calling you out on that one. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
We go back to either 2016 or 2017 is my first show with you.
Oh, it was before that. Or 16. It wasn't 17.
Okay, it's got to be 16. Yeah, because that's when I first wrote or first released the Forbidden Knowledge book. So that's when I would have gone on with you as 2016.
No, you were on before that.
Okay.
Well, okay, the Bob Mitchell book, but you were on before that. You did a time travel show with me.
I did. So maybe 2015.
Yeah,
so this literally could be the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Of me coming out to Fade to Black. 10 years.
And this is okay. All right. This is what's friggin' nuts about that. We have done too many shows when we can't remember stuff like this. Where, it should be like the big, that first show we did, you remember? And no, we don't even know what the first show was.
Well, what I remember is that the Forbidden Knowledge book was all about astral travels, and aliens. What we're going to talk about tonight.
When did you do the postures?
Probably a couple episodes after that.
Okay, when were you at my house getting plowed? God, we got drunk that night. Oh man,
I don't remember, Jimmy. But I do remember the tequila.
Was that the night? What's his name from South Africa?
Michael Tillinger was there.
Yeah, Michael Tillinger was. Yeah. That was that night, wasn't it?
It was.
And we stayed up. Okay, this is what this is okay. All right, this is how bad it was, people. And I'm not making any of this up. Jason as my witness. I had to be on stage at 9 a.m. Okay. 1 hour from the venue. So I had to be up at a minimum of 7 a.m. to get there at 8 to be on stage at 9 a.m. We were drinking at 4 a.m. That's what I remember. That's what I remember. It was like 5 a.m. Everybody gets out of the house. I laid down on the bed and woke up and hit the shower and went down, and it was all because of you. I think Monica was a big part of causing trouble that night. But
I do remember that you're a great host, and you made souvlaki that night. I do remember that. It was a lot of great food. So Jimmy cooked. And if memory serves me correctly, it was for Disclosure Fest.
It was Disclosure Fest, and we
Yeah.
had about 20 or 30 people at my house. We fired up the grill. We had amazing food, dessert. I don't know how many bottles of vodka and tequila. I remember lining up the shot glasses all the way down the edge of the table. I remember there was a row of shot glasses like that. And wow, what a night that was. And somehow Tellinger, he was the one I didn't think was going to make it. And there we were at 8 a.m. Like a couple hours later, we were all in downtown LA taking pictures.
Good memories, really good memories.
Oh man,
Yeah.
what a day that was. It was so much fun. So, and now what year was that? That was probably
17, I think.
16, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, like right in there. Wow. Okay, here's the other thing. I remember you, myself, Tellinger, and somebody else like Brad Harris or somebody who was there, till 4:30 in the morning. We're all there. And Nassim Haramein was there. And he had a good night's sleep. This is what I remember. He wasn't with us.
I remember this.
He comes up to us first thing in the morning and he's like, "Hey guys, what's going on? How you guys doing?" We're like, "Oh man, not so loud, dude. Oh, let's take some pictures." And then somebody came up with a camera. Somebody was shooting a documentary. I think it was Lori. It might have been Lori Wagner. Somebody was shooting a documentary. Can we ask you guys some questions? I'm like, man, they don't have any idea that we're still plowed. And wow, what a morning that was. But it turned out to be just an amazing day. Was that the day the tent got blown over and landed on Jonah's head?
That was the day. Yes, it was. Yeah. And that was all I remember was there was like 20,000 people. It was or more. I don't even know how many people were there, but it was the biggest event I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yep. It was a great event. Okay, so anyway, back to the point. We have forgotten more things, than we remember, and that's just because it's been a great run, and our friendship means so much to me. So let's get to it. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. I want to start here. You're going to be at Contact in the Desert next week. You're going to be doing stuff all weekend long. Let's go to your main presentation. What are you going to be speaking about? The book?
Yes. The main presentation, we'll be talking about the Astral Experiences. So I get into kind of like my lifetime journeys with out-of-body experiences, with basically shamanic journeys, healing, plant medicines. But then we go a little further, and I really wanted to get into the pre-Roswell idea of what people thought UFOs were. And there's a whole lot of literature out there that was linking the UFO phenomenon to the occult. And, just like how we're doing today, like the CE5 events where we're like meditating and calling on UFOs. Well, they were doing that in the early 20th century.
50s. Well, yeah,
and,
for sure.
And basically, there's so much information out there describing what the UFO phenomenon was and what these beings were, as basically connected to mysticism and the occult and the different dimensions and etheric worlds that are around us. So there's a huge amount of information back then. And then, Roswell happens and you get all these movies of the UFOs coming, the Day the Earth Stood Still, for example, which is an incredible movie, but it's kind of shifted the focus to this kind of physical alien walking out of a ship and abducting people or talking to people. So I really wanted to kind of pull it back to this kind of mystical idea or this spiritual understanding of this dimensional world around us, and could possibly encompass the UFO phenomenon.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What do you think, what do you make of the evolution of the sighting? Because you just touched upon it now, where uh the call-in CE5 style thing that was going on 70 years ago, right at Contact in the Desert. That was the original UFO conference.
George Van
Van
Tassel,
Tassel. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
was calling in at Big Rock in Palm Springs, and
Yep.
that's the spot.
Yeah, that's the spot. That's where we're going to be next weekend. And not only, okay, so the idea of the conscious connection to ET, this is not a modern thing. Most people think that, you know, CE5 was yesterday and this is brand new. And that idea, that protocol is old. It goes back to George Van Tassel, George Adamski.
Yeah. And George Adamski was around like 1947, 48.
Heyday was mid 50s.
Yeah.
Heyday was mid 50s.
And that's when it really exploded, was with George Van Tassel, who would do like the meditations at Big Rock and call in. So that was like the early 50s. And, I talk about, I'm trying to remember his name. But I talk about the FBI memo that was sent out on the exact same day as Roswell, which was, I think it's June 8th. It's in my book. Geez, why don't I just open my book and tell you? It was like June 8th. It's right. No, sorry, July 8th, 1947. So the exact day of the Roswell crash and release of the newspaper from the Roswell crash, the FBI gets a memo from this guy claiming to know what the UFOs are. And he goes into all these kind of steps describing where they come from, what they want. And because it's a post-war thing, he warns that if you ever tried, to send jets out to shoot them down or be hostile to any of these crafts, they basically are made of plasma, and they have plasma-like weapons, and we stand absolutely no chance against them. So there's some very interesting history about the UFO phenomenon that's, I would say, mostly buried. People really don't talk about this stuff anymore, but it really gives this kind of other side, another perspective. But when you go even further back and you get to kind of like the mystical side of things, or the occult things, look at someone like Aleister Crowley, for example. He was doing, he was creating portals and meditating and calling in things, and a being came to him, which he believed was his master. He called him Lamb, and he drew Lamb, and it looks like a modern day gray alien. And this is in the 1920s. So, it's just different languages for what we're doing, or what, CE5 today. But, if you even go further back, you get into kind of this realm of fairy circles and, basically the fairy world. It was very, very similar descriptions of abductions and lights and portals and, all these things that we talk about today. But back then it's just folklore.
For sure. And when we look at Lamb today, I might have, let me see. Let me hold on for a second. I might have, no, I don't have it there. Okay. One more pop. And if I have Lamb, I will pull it up, but I do not. Okay. So I don't have Lamb, but Lamb is your prototypical gray alien. You look at Lamb. Is there any question with what you're looking at with Lamb? No, there's not. And then you think about when and how that came about. That's pretty crazy. There was nothing else to compare it to. Now, talking about Van Tassel and Contact in the Desert. Check this out.
Yeah.
That's Van Tassel. This is Contact in the Desert, 1953. That's giant rock in the background. There's 10,000 people here. It is ginormous. And so talking about UFO conferences and everything else, again, not a modern affair. This is 1953. And there was another famous shot. I'll see if I can pull it up. I'm looking at one here. Here's a shot from 1968 from the cover of the Desert Sun. Here's one from the San Bernardino Sun, which shows a flying saucer above a giant rock with the conference attendees out front. That is pretty crazy. That shot right there is pretty nuts. Here's another shot here, just to give everybody an idea. Let's see here. If I can't, it's I can save it. Okay, so we'll call this Tassel 2. The reason why I'm bringing all of this up is the conscious connection of this. These people were out there doing it in mass, like no joke situation in the 50s. And this went through at Giant Rock all the way through to the early 70s. Here's another shot. Look at that.
Nice.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, obviously those UFOs are edited in.
No, those are real.
Those are. You know what I love? You know what I love about old pictures of UFOs, especially like Billy Myers, is that they look like they come from the age they were taken.
Love it.
You know, like the retro styles, and then they kind of evolve as we evolve. So that's also a very interesting thing, that the UFO shape or the craft itself will change depending on our technological advances.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, I would say that's mostly accurate. But 2 years ago, I was in Sedona, and I go up to the airport above Sedona, which is on the top of this mountain, right? This hill. It's really cool. It's on a cliff. And I'm up there, and I get out of the Jeep, and I'm with Michael of Sedona. He's great. And so we're there, and I was leaning over. It's probably 9:30 at night. I was getting something out of my backpack, and I see something, right? Just something catches my eye, and I look just like that. I look, and it's a frigging flying saucer just right over us. It's low, and it goes right. And I'm looking, I'm like, a flying saucer? What? You know, you've got to be kidding me. Not, it was a flying saucer, man. And it went right over us and continued and then disappeared over the trees. Now, I was with Michael last month, and I went up to the airport. I was hanging out. He had some people up there he had taken up there, and he wanted me to meet them. And so I went up, and I asked I said, "Do you remember that?" He goes, "Jimmy, I'm going to tell you right now, that was one of the only things that I've seen that was definitely ET. And it was the last thing that I have ever seen that was ET. I've never seen anything like that before, since, not like that. It was crazy. It was a flying saucer. I looked right. It was made no noise.
Wow.
Wasn't high. It wasn't high. And listen, Jason.
Yes. I don't doubt.
I realize this sounds like just crazy shit. I know what it sounds like.
I don't know.
I know what it sounds like.
Who are you talking to? Talking to me.
God, yeah, I know. That's true. That's so true. That's so true. But yeah, it was nuts. So when I talk about this, the evolution of, because we went through the nuts and bolts flying saucers with the dome on the top and and then black triangles, cigar shape. You know, the different decades had different things that were seen and witnessed. I get that. I do.
Mhm.
And then here I am, 2023, bringing Day the Earth Stood Still right over. Earth versus the flying saucer. Fantastic planet, right? Just flew right. It was crazy. It was fun. And it wasn't fast either. It took a good minute. Just cruised right over us, man. Took a minute. I really got a chance to take it in.
Oh,
It
that's
was
really cool.
Yeah, it was like glowing from the inside.
Hmm.
Like I didn't see anything. You know what I mean? No, I didn't see anything with the structure or stuff. It was just flat. It was a disc, and it was glowing from the inside. It's the best way I can explain it. Yeah, it was crazy. It was pretty nuts. So, what's the difference though when people talk about astral projection, right? Lucid dreams too, as well. Something else that could be maybe um, uh, chemically or medicine induced. There are all of these different versions of what is going on. When somebody says, I had an out of body experience, are they talking about astral travel? Are they talking about, are people misusing these terms?
I would say they all kind of relate to each other. But for example, an out of body experience, just for simple clarification, is something like a near death experience where you find yourself out of your body. So when you have this out of body experience, it's not like you're trying to have an out of body experience, you just have it. So either through, let's say, like a trauma, or in my case, it was from sleep paralysis, I had an out of body experience. So I wasn't planning on having that experience, but you're just find yourself disconnected from your body. Sometimes just like in a near death experience, you're looking down at your body, and that's what happened to me is when I had the sleep paralysis and I tried to wake myself up, instead of waking myself up physically, that's what I was trying to do. I popped out and I was on my ceiling looking down at myself. So that was like a spontaneous out of body experience that I wasn't expecting. I wasn't trying to leave my body. It just happened. So I would put that in the category of out of body experiences. Now, astral travel, I would say, is exactly the same thing, but the only difference is you're consciously doing it. So you're going into meditation,
You
or
have a plan. You have a
yes.
plan.
Yeah,
Right.
so you have a plan, you go through the steps. Sometimes it involves meditation. Sometimes it just happens naturally where you can feel the sensation and then you go through it while you're sleeping. Sometimes you're doing plant medicines and you consciously push yourself out. So that's what I would say astral travel is you're more in control and you basically guide yourself out to have these experiences. So it's still out of body, but you're semi or mostly in control. And I say that because, once you leave your body, it gets a little difficult. You may be pulled in different directions. You may get thrown back into your body. Sometimes it's very frustrating in that sense that you can't control the situation. But the leaving part of the astral travel, that's your control. Now, a lot of people also ask me, what about like remote viewing? Because is remote viewing astral traveling? And I've asked this question so many times to people that remote view, and I ask them, well, how do you do it? How do you perceive it? And a lot of these remote viewers can just kind of like sit in a chair, close their eyes. You give them a you give them a destination. Hold on. You give them a destination, and they just kind of close their eyes and go there. And I spoke to one and they said for their experience, it's almost like they have like a TV screen in their mind. And they're fully here, like they're in their body, but they can see the scene, they can travel through it, but they're here consciously. So I think that's more of like kind of like a psychic gift almost. It's using like the third eye to travel.
True. And I would also suggest, now I'm not a remote viewer, but I would also suggest that remote viewers develop their own techniques. Because when you look at somebody like Ingo Swann or Pat Price, where they have practiced this, they could put themselves in the office or room of something on the other side of the planet, or on the dark side of the moon, or Mars, right? Where their eyeballs are at this other location. But most remote viewers are just formulating an image in their mind that is entangled to something else. And then they have these multiple images, and then they correlate that into one big picture, whatever it may be. Rain, right? So that now they've got rain. They're connecting to rain. Oh, they're connecting to trees. They're connecting to a swing set. They're connecting to, they're looking at a children's playground in Orlando, or whatever, whatever it may be. But it's done over a series of images, not necessarily projected out to that location. They're putting all these different images together to get something whole out of it. But Pat Price and Ingo Swann and McMonagle, these other guys, they, through practice, were able to actually be somewhere and observe the room, observe somebody's desk.
And I would put that even above remote viewing. I would put that into the astral realm. I would say that they are actually projecting themselves to these places.
I think so. I think so. That's not what I don't think that's how do I say it? It's not remote viewing 101, how you develop the techniques, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once you do it long enough, you can get to that level where you can go to the dark side of the moon, or the other side of the universe for that matter.
Yes. And I'm just trying to think. Monroe.
Monroe.
Robert Monroe, the Monroe Institute, they would teach people, including the CIA. There's a lot of documents on this, on how to leave your body and travel to meet up on the moon or in different locations, and then come back with that information. So, it's all definitions of pretty much, I would say, the same thing of developing that gift to kind of leave and come back with information.
Have you done DMT yet?
Yes.
Okay. What about that experience? Not mushrooms. Let's put that aside. That's a psychedelic. That's different. That's a plant medicine. DMT is something altogether different. It's a tool.
Yes.
That experience, I would say that's out of body. I mean, you're physically here, but you are entering another dimension.
Absolutely. And I think, we always talk about the brain being a receiver of information. And when we take certain substances like DMT, which I think is the most extreme one you can do, it completely changes that frequency where your conscious awareness is pulled into another reality completely.
100%. That's it. There isn't any question about that. It's wow. There's no, did I? No, you're not going to say that. No, you're not going to say that. You do. You do.
And, I get these questions all the time because, when I start talking about my out of body experiences or contact, people are like, yeah, Jay's doing drugs. What's Jay doing? He's doing drugs. That's not true. It was completely not on drugs that all these things happened. But when I learned about the plant medicines, I started to read a lot of Terence McKenna, who I'm a big fan of Terence McKenna, and his brother Dennis. And so there was a time where I thought, if I took these substances, I could repeat these out-of-body experiences that I was having naturally. And I don't even know if I could tell this on air. Maybe I could tell this on air. But basically, no, maybe I can't tell this on air. Basically, I was trying very hard, trying different substances to duplicate the events. And one of them was mushrooms, which is very close to ayahuasca and things like that, especially in larger doses. And it happened one night where I had a complete detachment from reality, and I found myself in like another planet, in another world. And I wasn't human. I was like this.
But
like
that was
this-
mushrooms.
mushrooms. Yeah, but remember,
I would classify that as hallucination, though. I don't think that it, because, okay, I don't want to cut you off, and I
Yes.
don't in any way want to degrade your experience or your message or how you, but for me, because I've done both,
yeah,
is that the experience with DMT is no different than going to an airport, getting on a plane, and flying to France and getting off the plane, and now you're in France. That's a reality situation. DMT is that.
yes,
It's that. That's what happens. It's not, psychedelics and everything else. That's a recreational fun thing, and you're hallucinating and you're live. You do, that's different. DMT, no. That is just the same thing as going to another floor of the building. You're on the second floor, you go up to the 15th floor and you get off the elevator. That's what DMT is. You are just, it's wow.
Yeah. But the thing is, I was trying to duplicate these out-of-body experiences. And what I found with DMT, for example, is it was like its own thing. So yes, it's like an out-of-body experience, but you're in their world. It's like you're entering into that mind, which is, in my case, or in my experience, is completely different than the experiences that I was having naturally. So I'm not saying one is better or worse than the other. I'm just saying they are very different from each other.
They are. Okay, so check this out. This is my take, and I'm not wrong. Damn it, I'm not wrong. If you are listening and wondering and going, yeah, okay, so DMT, that would be fun to go and experience the little robot elves and run around and frolic in the mist. That ain't what's happening. That's not, no. You are leaving this world and stepping into another dimension that has nothing to do with this reality. And you go and you experience it for a few minutes and then you come back. It is as real as everything that you do when you get up in the morning. It's the same thing. It is not, that's not. So if you want to experience DMT, then your desire is to go on a vacation and go and experience another parallel world. That's what you want, because that's what's going to happen. You can't expect anything else. And just go experience it, see it, come back and go, okay, I just went to, Cairo, and now I'm back, and wow, that was interesting. And then you can, bucket list that one and go, okay, I've been to the 13th dimension, and it was fun. And that's DMT. It's not recreational. It's a plane ticket.
Yeah, and it's very, very fast acting, probably in the way that you're talking about. Other ways are a little different. Like if you were doing like an ayahuasca ceremony, it kind of comes on gradually, and there's varying steps to that experience.
Right.
But if like you're saying, if you're going to smoke it, it's very, very fast, and it's like like you say, you don't even take off from the runway. You're in the sky immediately.
You're just there. You're there. You walk through the door. It's like that. People, and that was the funny thing about that. I want to talk about the beings that you've encountered. The speed in which this happens is the speed of now. It doesn't have time for bloodstream. It doesn't have time to do this or do that no, it's crazy. It's just like, I was like, what? And that part of it for me was my takeaway that I want to relay to everybody else. You have no idea how crazy fast it is, and how crazy fast it is on the backside. You're suddenly just you're back. It's like, what? Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. It's pretty fast. It's a tool. It's not to classify it as a drug is incorrect. I don't even know how it can activate that quick. Your blood doesn't go through your body that fast. I don't know. It's something that's turned on in your brain. Yeah. There's just something where you just access this other dimension and you're there. You step off the elevator. It's so fast.
Absolutely. But in the reason we're bringing this up as well is that you don't need it. There are other ways of connecting and doing these things. And that's kind of like where my journey has led, is that the natural experiences for myself were far more interesting, far more intense than any drug or any plant medicine that I've tried. And I've tried to duplicate it with these plant medicines, and I can't touch the other side of the natural side of these things. Like you said, it's like short-lived, whereas these other experiences, they get into like past lives, they get into spirit contact, they get into simultaneous life streams, all this crazy stuff that kind of awakens you to this grander reality of who we are. All that stuff came from the natural side of things. And I found that especially with doing plant medicine ceremonies with like a mushroom or ayahuasca, it was people think it's like you're going out. For me, it was the complete opposite. It was going in. It was almost like the inside of myself became this kind of infinite portal. And instead of like projecting outwards, I was being pulled more inwards into the self. And there is a great opportunity for healing and working things out, or discovering this kind of inner strength or inner light within us. And I think the plants in that regard are an incredible shamanic guide.
When do you think, and why, when do you think the blinders went on to block us off from these realities? And why? Why did we start shutting ourselves off to this? Because the ancients have always talked about this.
And that's a good thing, is that you have cultures around the planet that have kept this up. But, as you grow up, your mind is developing. So a child's mind, I don't think is ready for these things. And this is why certain ages in their lifetime were deemed appropriate. Like, for example, like the whole 13 years old when you become a man, like the Jewish religion, like why is that, right? Or why is 18 years old so important? These are posts on your life of how your mind develops or how your brain develops. And this is why they find that people that, let's say, smoke marijuana at a very young age, a lot of it could cause tremendous harm to the developing brain. But for someone who starts smoking later in life, it has a completely different effect, because the brain is already evolved in a way to handle it. So there is kind of this kind of initiation steps into awakening this. But in our society, it's completely shunned. And I think that's because we're not supposed to know this. And Terence McKenna talked a lot about this type of subject where um, certain drugs or certain substances are actually beneficial for societies. So in our society right now, the beneficial drugs are caffeine, tobacco, nicotine, and sugar, because it helps us get through, and alcohol. It helps us get through the workday and become productive members of society. Whereas, if we are all just kind of, sitting at home smoking pot, and doing psychedelics, I don't think we're going to be going out to our jobs every day. We'll want to stay home and just kind of relax. So, depending on our culture and civilization, that is kind of the influence of different foods and medicines that are applied to us to keep our society moving forward.
It's really weird for me. I don't do anything anymore. I haven't smoked pot since 2003. Okay? That's a pretty long time.
Mhm.
Considering what I was doing before then, right? And I just stopped. And everything, I just stopped. And part of it, certainly the last 15 years or so, 2008ish, 2007, 2006, like right in there, the thought of I was on the professional road, so I couldn't have anything mess with my mind, being in front of people. The paranoid feeling that I had, I couldn't do that. I just, there was just no way. And so the way that I research and the way that I read and I'm there's no way I could get on the air every night and on pot. I would, it just wouldn't happen. It's impossible. So I've gone down another road, but, I have attempted to access these parallel situations naturally, and I do it via sleep. I do it somewhat through meditation. I don't have the patience to meditate every day, but there are ways to go and experience it. And then let me say this. This is crazy. 2 weeks ago, I had oral surgery done, like real surgery, right? And they put me under. And so while they were working on me, I think there was a total of 4 people in the operating room, right? There was my surgeon and then 3 assistants running around, scalpel, you know what I mean? Whatever. Anesthesiologist and all of that. So all of that's going on. You know what I saw? First off, you know what they did? You're going to laugh. You know what they did?
No.
They frigging were playing South American Peruvian mountain flute music.
In the clinic.
Yeah, of all the things that they could have been playing, right? They're playing that shit, right? So that just takes you right there, right? I'm there. Anyway, so this flute music's going on, and I didn't even hear it at first. It was playing, but anyway. So then they drug me, and this is what I see with that frigging flute music going on. And you ever see the movie Donnie Darko?
Of course.
You remember when the tubes connected, right?
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
Wow.
So yeah. So they're running around. I can't really see, but they're like light beings now. They're not humans, right? and I guess my eyes were open. I don't know. I think they were. Anyway, that part doesn't matter. But I could kind of hear their voices. But as they spoke, this beam of light connected their heads.
Wow.
And it was shooting around the room as they were talking. The heads were connected with beams of light. Yeah. And this flute music's going on. And I swear to God, this is what I said to myself. Cool. Wow. Wow. And they are doing gnarly stuff to me, and I didn't give a crap. I was watching this ballet, right? This synchronous dance that was going on with the communication and the connecting of the lights between their heads. Yeah, it was really cool.
And, I think these things do change the frequency. Like, I don't think what you're seeing is a hallucination.
No,
Like,
I don't. But
call
no, Jason, I'm telling you, it was
the real deal. You're seeing
I saw
a
entanglement.
dimension.
Yeah.
And it allows it. I got my wisdom teeth taken out when, I don't know, 15, 6, I don't remember. But, they gave you they gave me like really strong codeine or something for it. And I took it and I freaked out because my clairaudience kicked in. So I started taking codeine for my teeth, and suddenly it's like I'm in a room with like 100 people yelling at me, and there's nobody in my room. So I go to the doctor. I'm like, doctor, I take the codeine, and I hear all these people talking to me, and they're like, okay, Jason is allergic to codeine. Do not give him codeine.
Is that what that was? Wow.
So that was when I was younger. But since we're just having these fun stories, when I broke my back, so 2017, right? Come out of surgery, so I was totally under, and this is the wackiest thing because I don't even know how to describe this.
We have to tell everybody in
Okay.
the interest of transparency.
Yes.
You and I talked through this whole thing.
Oh yeah.
I talked to you when you were in the hospital.
Damn.
You remember that?
No. That's how messed up I was.
Oh man.
But I'm telling you,
you don't remember that conversation when you were in the hospital and you were laid out on your back before you went home, and you told me about your experience. And I said, dude, I've got to get you on the show. We've got to bring you on the show to talk about this. And you said, okay. So you went home. You were home for about a week, not even a week. And I got you on Fade to Black.
Damn. I honestly don't remember any of that. That's the problem with severe trauma. It's like a memory wipe. But there's certain things I do remember. And maybe I told this story on that episode, but I think I died on the table, right?
Right.
It was pretty extreme. I have a scar from here to here. They really opened me up but anyways, so I was under the anesthetic, and I had this kind of crazy vision or crazy journey where I was like a kid again, and I was in kind of a Dr. Seuss world. It was really weird and cartoony, really strange. And I was led to this kind of wall by this strange voice, and I was a kid again. And this wall had all these weird dials and screens and and the voice said, now you can choose your next life anywhere in the multiverse by turning these dials. So it's I can go 1,000,000 years in the past in this star system, or I could be in the future and I could be this type of being. And all I had to do was arrange these knobs and see the viewing screen of what I was choosing to be my next life.
Wow.
And
man, that's cool. That's cool. That's a good one.
But the funny thing was the one that we kind of stopped on, that they were saying, see, look, you can be this kind of giraffe looking thing in 1,000,000 years in this star system over here. And so I woke up from my surgery and I was laughing. I'm if I died and that was the transition to my next life, it's totally bananas. It was nuts.
Do you think that there was some symbolism there that maybe we are choosing?
I really think that we are. And when we leave our body, it's something like we leave time and space altogether. So it doesn't like you can leave your body and you can let's stay out for a long, long time. And then you can come back and it's like a moment has passed. So time really doesn't exist once you have this out of body experience. Some people explain like even having there's a lot of stories where someone gets like hit in the head, they have a concussion, they go to the hospital. And during that like time when they were unconscious, it could have been like 10 minutes, an hour. When they wake up, it's like they said they've lived an entire life.
Yeah.
So we don't have this understanding of time. So I think that we can choose our next path, once we leave our body, and it could be either in the past or in the future or different timelines. And it just kind of shows you that we really don't understand reality. Like we understand this reality as we go forward in a physical nature of the universe. But once you leave and you become this kind of multidimensional self or outside of time and space, what laws are there? And I think this is where we kind of miss the mark and we don't understand how these processes can work. But, from my experience, from other people's experience, it just tells me that we could jump back and forth.
We're going to take a break right here. My first DMT experience was 9 minutes. Okay. I had a timer going. And when I opened my eyes and I looked over at my shaman, and it was crazy how sober is not the right word, how back to reality I was, right? It's just like instant. And I go, how long was that? And he leans forward and I look down at my timer and it just clicked over to 10 minutes. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, about 9 minutes. And I'm thinking about how I saw too much. You know what I mean? It was too long. How was that only 9 minutes? And if I sat and told the story, play by play of everything, dude, it would take forever. It wouldn't take 9 minutes. Right? It's weird. When they say time isn't linear, well, it's not. Not in that instance. It's just no. And same thing in the dream state too, as well. So I would say that would apply to any astral situation or any out of body situation. Jason, stay right there. Let's take our break. This is Fade to Black. Jason Quitt is our guest, and his new book is Astral Experiences. There it is right there. We've got the links for the book below. Go and check it out. We'll be right back after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. Today we're headed to Bolivia, Tiwanaku, Peru, and of course, Pumapunku. Brian, exciting. Thank you so much for everything, my friend.
Always an honor. Right behind us is the sacred river of the Inca that goes past Machu Picchu. So we're going to be driving up to its source at 15,000 feet above sea level and then down to Lake Titicaca.
So today we hit 15,000 feet.
Yes.
Crazy. And you can do it with us. All you have to do is go to hiddenincatours.com. Simple. We've got 2 tours coming up next year, one in June for the summer solstice,
That's
right? And then another one right here in November. So hiddenincatours.com. Come and hang out with Brian and I and his amazing team.
Right on.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jason Quitt is back with us. He's got a new book out, Astral Experiences. That's what we are talking about. And so, Jason, what kind of, hold it up. There it is. Astral Experiences. Jason, what kind of beings are you? Sneeze. What kind of beings are sneezing out there?
It's a good question. Probably humans and animals. But no, to answer your question, there's so many different things that populate the spiritual realm or the astral realm or the etheric realm, whatever definition you want to call it. And when I first started to see these things, they were shadows, or they looked like what people would describe as shadow beings. So as like a young child, I'd see, let's say, like a shadow standing in the room or in the closet, and it would just kind of stand there silently, didn't really do anything, didn't really communicate anything, but would kind of guide me or show me things. So it would start with kind of like shadow looking beings. And then what actually brought me into the UFO community was I was having these out-of-body experiences, and one of the first beings that started to come to me was the typical mantis-style being.
Really?
And it was, for me, it was an out-of-body experience. So I was just starting to learn how to leave my body. And so through sleep paralysis, my body would kind of like pop out. So I could start to feel like presences in my room, and you can't see them with your physical eyes. So they would walk into the room and I could sense them. And then my astral body would kind of like sit up in my physical body. And once the astral body is awake, suddenly I can see inside the room. And some of the first beings I saw were these kind of mantid beings. And they were actually quite big. Like if they were to walk into like the room, they would have to kind of duck their head underneath the doorway. I'll just say it was not a physical experience. Like if I open my eyes, there's going to be nothing in my room. But in the astral state, they're right there. So there is these moments of, and it's when it happens to you and you're in a deep sleep, it's very frightening because a couple of times they would wake you or wake me up and their face would be like this close to mine. So imagine like opening your eyes and then seeing this head, which is about this big right in front of you. And they never communicated with me. I can hear them speak to each other, but it was like a clicking, tweeting type sound. Like it's nothing I could define as a human person. They always looked kind of confused, as in like this one's awake.
You caught them, like you caught them?
Yeah. So it's like I would come out of the body and then they look at you, they look kind of confused and they kind of like stand back and kind of twist their head, like looking at you strangely, like, is this one awake kind of things. Now, I never had anything bad happen to me that I could remember. I remember hearing them, if there was more than one in the room, I could hear them communicating with each other in this kind of like clicking, tweeting type language. And I would just say to them, I like go, look, can you speak English? I don't understand what you're saying. And they would just stop, look very confused, and then just leave. So that was like the first type of thing. And I never saw, and then the next one that I saw would be like a reptilian, which was more, I'd call it more like remote viewing, or like an astral experience where I'm pulled out of my body into some space where there's like a meeting, where there's a communication happening between them. And, I asked them like who they were, and they gave me a bunch of names like, reptoids, dinoids, saurians, reptilian. Like they just gave me a bunch of names. And I said, where are you from? And they said, they're from Sagittarius, is what they told me. And it's very interesting. Like it made me think that, if us humans could leave our bodies and travel to other star systems, why can't beings in other star systems leave their bodies and come and communicate with us here? So they use kind of like this astral plane as kind of like a stage to communicate back and forth over long distances. And that's what I believe was happening to me in certain circumstances. So I had the typical mantids, I had the typical reptilians. And then when I was in Japan, I had my first gray alien experience. And I'm basically sleeping in bed, I feel a presence walk in the room. I leave my body and there's a gray alien standing at the foot of my bed. And it looked exactly typical of, what you see in the movies. The big eyes, the big gray head, wasn't wearing any clothes. And it was 100% in the astral, and they were communicating to me in telepathy. And right when I woke up and I saw it and I looked right at it, I immediately got this message from this gray alien, and it said, I am a short old man, is what it said to me. And I said, no, you're not. You're a gray alien. And again, it looked confused and then left the room. And then I woke up. And there's a lot of these experiences that I've recently dug up where people wake up in the middle of the night to see an old, short man in their bedroom.
No, thank you.
Exactly.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you.
So for that's a pretty scary experience. But in my mind, I saw it as a gray alien, and it tried to convince me it was a old man. So I'm thinking it's kind of like a Jedi mind trick,
Right?
Where it kind of places the image so you don't actually see its true form. So this is how I got into the UFO scene originally, is because I was going down the shamanic path of out-of-body experience and shamanic journeys. And as I was learning how to leave my body and have these experiences, I came in contact with a number of beings, but some of them are exactly what people describe in this community as like the aliens that abduct people or take them on ships. And the more I researched this, the more fascinating this became to me, because I found that people that were doing medicine ceremonies in the middle of the jungle were being taken up on ships. They were having these experiences with like being put on like medical beds on ships and having like grays or manted beings working on them, like fixing whatever is wrong and then sending them back to their bodies. So you have this kind of cross between the UFO community and the shamanic community, that when they're going out and doing their shamanic work, they're coming into contact with beings that people describe in the abduction scenarios. And I think the reason why I'm here is I'm trying to like kind of bridge those two communities together to say we're both having the same experiences, but from different perspectives.
Right. Very interesting that the reptilian, reptoid, whatever you want to classify it as, said Sagittarius.
Yeah.
Sagittarius is at the center of our universe, just off the ecliptic. And that part universe of our Milky Way, our galaxy, Sagittarius A is the black hole that's at the center of our galaxy. But Sagittarius itself, which is next to Scorpius, is in a very hostile part of our Milky Way. And I only say that because we live where we are, our star system, we're in a very calm area. It's not radiated. We don't have a lot of crazy activity going on and things. But the closer you get to the center of our galaxy and where Sagittarius is, it's a pretty hostile environment. That those planets that are there, radiated. You know, it's a hostile place. And now, and sure, there's life there, and there could be life there, but it would be radically different than what we are expecting. And to hear that's an odd area to come from. I would say that a lot of physicists would say, well, their physicists are full of shit, but would say, not likely that there's any planets there with life on it because of what is happening. But that's a very strange location. And you know why I'm saying that, Jason?
Yes. Why?
It sounds legit.
Oh.
You're not picking Orion or Andromeda, or something in our local galaxy cluster where it's peaceful. Out here, it's peaceful out here. There's nothing crazy going on.
The only thing I can think of is, maybe those harsh conditions are what, make them so strong or so big.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's exactly why I'm going there. It's just an odd place. And so it just seems legit to me.
So again, like, I don't know why they spoke to me and relayed that information to me. But like I said, I was just kind of recording whatever was these experiences that were happening to me. And
what do you think they want with you?
What I believe is that we're all connected somehow. And if you believe in reincarnation or star seeds, basically, Earth is not the only place that we've been. It's not the only place we've incarnated. So we may have lived lives in Sagittarius maybe 1 billion years ago, or in the future, or wherever, or lived, on another universe completely, or another dimension completely. And during those lifetimes, not on Earth, we have strong connections to other beings. So a lot of times when we have this contact situation happening, what I've learned is that mostly these are beings that know you better than you. You know, they've known you from lifetime to lifetime. You might even be one of them, and you've chosen to separate from them to be here. And this is what a lot of starseeds actually talk about, is they feel like they are a certain being incarnated here, and they have more connection or resonance to something else. And I've had experiences where a being will come to me, and basically it's kind of like a family member from somewhere else. And even though I don't recognize them from my physical life here on Earth, like I've never seen this type of being before, instinctually or at a soul level, it's like I know this being. Like I've known them longer than anybody else. You know, so it's this very, very deep connection. And, you know, some people, when they see these beings, because they haven't seen them in so long, it's very alien to them. They get very scared. And maybe over time, they slowly start to understand that, you know, they have this connection to these beings. They're not here to hurt us. Some of them are. I just got to put that out there.
Mhm.
But some of them are really here to just kind of help us along. And I believe this is why I've had certain contact experiences, is because I was in some difficult places in my life and I needed to get moved into different directions. And so I would be, or a being would come into my life and kind of push me into this direction. And that's how I got into this. When in my early 20s, I was working in a recording studio. I was doing graphic design and marketing material for bands. You know, that was like my life. And then I started to have the sleep paralysis. Then I started to have these out of body experiences. Then I started to have contact with beings. And it literally just pulled me out of my life and said, no, you can't be here anymore. You need to be here. And you need to learn this stuff. And so I had to quit my job. I went back to school and I started to learn all these things.
Were you able to communicate and ask questions?
Yes. But
How did you go about that? And was it open communication, or you've got 3 questions you can ask, don't burn them up? You know, how did that go down?
usually there is no time for communication. All right. So it's either they come and they give you some information, or they come and they take you somewhere to show you something, and you'll get like a telepathic message. Usually you don't really ask. There's only been a few times that I get my questions answered, and it would just be telepathically.
Well, give me an example of
Okay.
that.
Okay. For example, one of the first things that was happening to me was a being was saying to me that I needed to heal myself. All right. So this was like the part of like the beginning of my shamanic journey. So a direct message was, if you keep going out of your body, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get very sick. And you're going to shorten your lifespan, because energetically, I wasn't good to leave my body. They said I would attract certain beings to me. They would kind of attach to me, and it would shorten my lifespan. And they
Oh, that's
said,
heavy shit. That's heavy
yes.
shit.
So it was like a warning, like you really need to
Right.
know what you're doing before you start playing with this stuff. And they said, if you want to continue doing what you're doing, you need to learn how to heal yourself.
And you said what?
And I didn't understand. I went to the doctor. I made an appointment with my general practitioner to see what was wrong with me. Because, you know, when a being is telling you you're sick and you need to heal, I thought
What
there
the
was
hell?
something.
Did you tell your doctor? Okay, so
No,
check
no,
this out.
no, I didn't tell
Oh
my
man, you
doctor.
should have. You
I
should have.
just said, give me all the tests. Like I need to know everything.
You know,
And
all of my doctors, all of them,
yeah.
know what I do. And they're all asking questions. They're all into this. It's really weird. It's like their opportunity
Yeah.
right? They don't get a chance to, you know what I mean? So, you
No,
know,
I
they
don't
show up.
tell. I don't tell.
Nah, they all are asking me questions. The okay, so this reminds me of so I have my guide. This is DMT, and my guide is behind me. I never saw her. She talked to me. We talked, but
Yeah.
an amazing voice, by the way. Just an amazing, just an it was never frightening. It was just like it was weird, so normal. Anyway, so she's behind me, and we're walking, and I turned. I mean, I said to her, "Okay, I want to meet the alien robots." My exact words. That's what I said. Right, the alien robots. I don't know why that came out, but it did. And you know what she said? She answered me. She
What's that?
goes, "Not yet." And I almost argued. No, I'm serious. I was going to go, no. Let's do this. I'm ready. But I didn't. And the talk was obviously telepathic. I don't know if I was speaking physically with my own mouth, but I felt that I was. Right. And I felt that she was behind me and her mouth was moving. I never looked at her. I never saw what she looked like. I never did. I never turned around.
But it's usually like that. Even from my experiences, like in the book, you'll see that I say the exact same thing. Is that like when they're traveling, it's like they're kind of behind you, like holding your shoulder, and you can talk to them telepathically, like right behind you. You can ask these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that you said it's a female voice, because many people on DMT actually say the same thing. And sometimes they call her the purple lady or something like this, where it would be a lady guide that will guide you through the DMT realm.
It was so normal. I can't express that enough or emphasize it enough. It was not in any way strange.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds strange. I know what it sounds like, but it wasn't. It didn't feel strange. It was just totally normal. And the first thing that she said to me, and I answered her, but the first thing she said was, I mean, out of the gate. So there was this sign that said "Enter here," and it was like an arrow, right? And there was this doorway kind of thing. "Enter here." So I do, and I walk straight through it. It was like instant, right? So anyway, I go through, and she's right behind me, and she goes, "Okay, we're going to walk down this path, and if you want, you can go left or right on the path, or we can just go straight. It's up to you." And I said, "Okay, all right." It's exactly what came out of my mouth. Okay, all right. And I say that, and we just walked. Now, I didn't at any time, I never met any. No, that's not true. That's not true. Oh, should I tell the story? Should I do it? All right. I okay.
This is starting to sound real good. Yeah.
Well, only because I don't want to do a full disclosure here, but let's just say there was a guest on the show in the last 2 months. Okay, I'm not going to say who, but it could be from anywhere in the world, any guest. But the point is this: I never met up with anybody, right, except this one time. And I walk up onto this boat. It's on a river. And I walk up on the boat, and I turn around and I grab the railing of the boat, and the boat pulls out from the dock, and we start heading down the river. And I'm looking at stuff. My guide's behind me, and we're talking about what I'm seeing. It was extraordinary. It was a lot of fun. Very cool. And I turned to look to see where the boat is going. I'm on the side of the boat, looking out the side of the boat. And I turn and I'm looking at the front of the boat, the bow, and I'm watching it navigate through the river. But as I do that, there's somebody standing right here. It's a friend of mine. And he turns to me and he goes just like this. He turns, he goes, "Pretty cool, huh?" Just like that. And so anyway, the next day, I call this person. I said, I know this is going to sound, I just want a yes or no. Have I come to you in any dreams lately? And it was like, what? Church? Are you okay? I said, no, I'm just wondering. And he said, no. Why? I said, because you were in a dream I didn't tell him the whole story, but I said, you were in a dream of mine last night. Oh, really? I said, yeah. What'd I do? I said, you turned around and looked at me and said, this is cool. and we just laughed. Now, how strange would it have been if he would have said, yeah, man, I dreamt about you last night? That would have flipped me out. I don't even know why I called, because if he would have said that to me, I might have lost my shit. That's man, that's some confirmation situation there. But other than that, I've never met anybody else in the other dimension. That was the only time.
But it's really interesting from a archetypal standpoint, because you're talking about getting on the boat and traveling through the river into the other dimension.
Mhm.
And this is spoken about in the oldest mythologies and stories of the gods. Even Gilgamesh, to get to like the immortals, he has to go, through the gateway and travel across the river. And it goes into like the river Styx. So it's like, yeah. So you're really taking quite the journey there. You're hitting all these archetypal steps. Yeah.
Yeah. There was this it was a TV series. This was a few months ago, and I'm watching it. And there's a scene where somebody is trying to, I just want to get this right, is trying to leave like purgatory. Not quite hell, right? But like the in-between kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to do it, they have to go down and get on this boat and sail across the sea. And there's a gatekeeper at the boat, and that boat doesn't depart unless, and so forth. Anyway, long story short, I'm watching that scene and I'm looking at the boat and I'm looking at what's going on, and it felt strangely familiar. Yeah, it was pretty bizarre. It was pretty bizarre. The boat that I was on was like an old sailboat without masts.
Wow.
Okay, you follow me?
Yeah.
It had that shape. It had that thing, not like a mini pirate ship. You know what I'm saying? Like that, but without any sails. And it was black. And it had a ring of lights around the railing on the top. It was lit up. Beautiful. It was cool, but it didn't have sails. All right. And neither this boat in this TV series. And it had the lights on wow. And my vision of this was a year ago. This is a while ago. And to see it in this TV series, it was pretty bizarre.
Well, when you die in Egypt or ancient Egypt, you were supposed to go to the Western horizon and catch Ra's boat.
Yep.
To take you into the underworld. Yep. So
right. How did you know? I've never told you about this.
No.
This boat experience, I'm pretty sure it was on the Nile. I'm pretty sure. I didn't see pyramids. I didn't see any of that, but I felt like it was on the Nile. I felt like it was on the Nile.
Yeah. And
have you sailed the Nile?
No, I have not. I have not. I need to go and do this, but
That is a crazy experience. And it's not, first off, and this is no joke, it's older than everything. Okay, so anything that you know on this planet, right? The Nile is older. Okay, period. That's it. So there are sections of the Nile where there's nothing there. It's desert on both sides, right? But closer you get to the Nile, there's a little vegetation, but there's no houses. It's desert, man. It's just like crazy nothingness out there. And then you start seeing stuff. You just look. There's nothing there. There's no people. There's no homes. There's no nothing. It's just desert. But next to the Nile, you'll see tombs. You'll see structures built on you'll see entrances, stone doorways in the middle of nowhere. And then you'll see a goat or something, just something really strange there. But anyway, going up the Nile and seeing that, it takes you to that dreamscape, especially in the evening, when the sun is setting and it starts to get the, beautiful colors are going on.
yeah.
And you're just cruising, on this boat. It's all silent. You're not around anybody. You're by yourself. And you just observe and see what is there that is as old as anything. And it's constructed on the banks of the Nile in the middle of nowhere. It is the most surreal experience that you can have. It's crazy. It's unreal, man. Unreal.
All right. Well, let's plan a trip.
I would love for you and I to sit there with an espresso for a couple of hours on an isolated part of the Nile. The experience is beyond measure. It truly is. It's like, who is buried there? Who was living there? When was it built? Why was it built in the middle of nowhere? Now back then, maybe there was heavy vegetation. Maybe there was farmland behind that. Maybe it wasn't sand and everything else. It wasn't so desolate and isolated. I don't know. But you're going, through 100 miles of river like that at a very slow pace, where you're just seeing all of this ancient, thousands and thousands of years old. It's bizarre, man. It is a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I'd love to experience that 100%. And I'm trying to remember, because I wrote about this so many years ago, but the Roman and Greek mythologies of the ferryman going to the other side, there was a physical river that was located, I think, in Greece, and that's where they would put the bodies on the boat and sail them down. And they believe that you put them on the physical river first, and then it goes through kind of this portal into the other, and that's how you enter the other world, is through the water. But first it's through the physical. So even going down the Nile or the Euphrates, or it has a significance to opening portals to these other worlds.
When you look at the stories that are right there on the walls and on the papyrus and sculptures, and you see the story as it is presented, it is the dreamscape and the astral that we are talking about. And they were able to capture it. It's right there, man. It's right there in front of you. And they were experiencing all of this and documenting it 5,000 years ago.
Yeah. And I was just reading an article lately. They found this cup of what's his name? Anyways, they found this ancient cup, and they started to take samples from Egypt, what was being drunk from this cup. And they found that it contained Syrian rue, blue lotus, and other types of materials. And it was Bes, the god, the short guy Bes. And so if you imagine that as a cup and inside was a psychedelic brew, these Egyptians 100% were doing ceremonies with these type of psychedelics. So they were learning all about the afterlife, all about leaving your body and all these transitionary states. And they put it in their hieroglyphs, just like you said. So when we start to look at the mythologies and look at the imagery that they're choosing, which is very shamanic imagery, the only way you're going to understand that is if you've gone through those initiations, you've seen those things. And then when you look at it, one of the craziest hieroglyphs, there was the Ba, which is like the bird and the body, or the bird and the head. So when you leave your body at death, you become the Ba. It's kind of like your astral body. And then you have the shadow, which is like your soul that stands with your Ba. And then they showed these like black portals into like outer space, so these doorways, they would show like the funeral doorway, and they'd put the Seba, which is the star or the shadow, in the doorway of the necropolis, right? And they go, that's your Stargate. And we think, okay, like the movie Stargate, a portal opens and we go to the stars. But this is a death scene. It's showing the person that's died, and the doorway is now open to the stars. The portal is open, and you go with the Ba and the shadow, and you travel to the stars. And they talk about this in like the pyramid texts, so you have to have the right perspective to understand these things. And when people do these or have these near-death experiences or have these contact experiences, like I said, my first contact experiences, I'm the Ba, I'm the astral body, and there's a shadow in the room waiting for me. And the same thing is on hieroglyphics 4,000, 5,000 years ago.
Right. I love that part of human history of using art. Okay, stay with me on this.
Yeah.
Using art to what we would use motion pictures for today, to project the imagination, to project the id, to project the dream state, however ways that we do it today. But back then, all right, now we're talking about 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago. Okay, push that shit way back. All right, go to Castillo, go to Spain, go to France, right? And look at the cave paintings and the original art as this cognitive thing development started in humans. And to capture that in art, when we see it today, that they are preserving another dimension. That's what's on those walls. You can see it. You can see the movement of it. You can see the interdimensional aspect of it. And this was supposed to be primitive man that had no intelligence or not, but yet they were capturing this. And then look at the sculpture that was done. Some of the oldest stuff that we have today, 25,000, 30,000 year old sculpture. Go look at the depiction of humans and gods back then, the original Venus stuff, of which they're all over Europe. And go look at the way that humans were depicted. They're not, it's a different dimensionality of the human figure. And that says so much to me about how they were able to see this other reality and then turn around and capture it in art for us.
Yeah.
I think it's very important.
And this is the whole thing, is that when you see these displays and motifs of, let's say, like hunters and gatherers with the animals, like they're depicting what they experience. They show the natural world and the animals that they hunted. And then right next to it, you'll have a very shamanic type display where it's otherworldly. Like it is, nothing looks real to what their life was. And it shows this kind of two worlds where they lived in the kind of shamanic realm and they lived in the hunter-gatherer realm, and they depicted both. So for me, looking at this, it's like they had one foot in one world and one foot in the other world. And there's also, if you look at like petroglyphs and ancient artwork, there's a lot of like geometries, like a lot of spirals and a lot of very strange shapes. But you see these same shapes all over the world in different hieroglyphs or in different petroglyphs. And were these glyphs or these geometries part of that, let's say, plant medicine ceremony? So when they saw those other dimensions, they saw these designs, and they would communicate that on walls that they seen these images in these states of consciousness.
I am going to show you. Are you ready? You ready?
Sure. Yeah, I'm here.
Check this out. This is what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
That is between 25 and 30,000 years old. Now, it's about that tall, fit in the palm of your hand, right? It's about that tall. And look at what is captured there. That is, it's beautiful. It's perfect. But we're talking about humans that weren't supposed to be able to do this yet. And look how it's captured.
Yes.
That's a dreamscape. You know what I mean? It's just unbelievable.
But it's like when you look at it, the main question is, why isn't there a mouth? There's everything else, but there's no mouth.
Look at the hair. Look at the hair.
Mean?
Yeah. Look at the hair. What is that? And the hair almost looks cut and braided, right? But 30,000 years ago? Wait, what? This was found in France, in a cave in France.
Yes.
And it is a mammoth tusk. That's what it's carved from. Now, okay, so then it presents a couple of other ideas here. What were the tools used? Okay, we are talking about fine art here. There are sculptors on this planet today that can't do this, right?
Because they have to subtract all that tusk.
It's the look. Well, it's the look, right? Yes. There's all of that. There's the technical side of it, but it is the imagery that is captured there.
Yes.
Now, the other thing that this suggests to me is we are way off base with past civilizations about their intelligence and what they could do and how they viewed things. They didn't have a simplistic view of the world. They had a very advanced mind. And that's what this represents to me. That is sophistication on par with anything that we are today, who we are today. It's right there.
And I would say that art defines us as a species. And like you said, we're finding stuff going back 30,000 years, and it's absolutely beautiful. So you have artisans who would take the time to hone a skill. So I would say this would be widespread.
Somebody just, okay. So Jessica said it could be a wig. Somebody said it's depicting a knitted hat of sorts. Okay. So I get that. And if that is indeed the case, then that pushes this to a whole nother level, doesn't it? What if that is a hat? Some kind of, well, we may never know, but what I can see is beauty, and how it's depicted there. Wow. I just find this fascinating. So when we go and we talk about Egypt, and the other part about this, when we're talking about astral travel, you go to South America and you walk around not only these sites, these very, very sacred places for sure, but you look at the people and you just feel it, that you've been there before. There's this knowingness, right? It's not foreign at all. It's very strange. That astral out of body experience, you get that when you go to these sacred sites, and it just makes you wonder what is time, what is the soul, what is consciousness, and how is all of this playing out with each other, because all of this is completely familiar. I'm not seeing anything new here.
No.
I'm seeing someplace that I've been before.
Yes. So, the point that I really want to get across is that, what we're talking about is a human experience. But just because we live in a modern world and we have all this technology and science, we think that we know things. When you go to a traditional community, let's say, like you said, go back to the rainforest, they have thousands and thousands of years of living in nature and surviving and knowing certain things, like the intelligence it takes to survive conditions to be in a certain place. When you looked at the 30,000-year-old head you just showed, you're talking about a time when there's a kilometer of ice. There's ice sheets around the planet. Terrible conditions for humans, but we survived thousands and thousands of years in the harshest conditions known to mankind, and we came out of it. And once the ice sheet receded and, we started to get those beautiful plains, let's say in Mesopotamia or Göbekli Tepe, once you started to farm and everything, then they really started to expand. But it's not like they just discovered knowledge. It was, they had the opportunity to share it and build that knowledge. Whereas before, let's say, they would carry it with them from place to place to place. So the environment changed and the way they expressed themselves changed. But again, if something happened to the human race tomorrow, where let's say we lose everything, we lose technology, we lose society, and 95% of humanity is gone, that 5% of survivors will start again. And they may start with absolutely nothing and then build back up over 1,000, 2,000 years with the knowledge of their ancestors, which is us. So we have this kind of ingrained knowledge within us. And I believe that, you can call it the book of life, the Akashic records, but human history, all knowledge of who we are, is somehow stored in the magnetic field of the earth, is what I truly believe, in this etheric state, so that we will always have access to knowledge, even when everything is taken away from us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. I'll tell you where I feel that there's evidence of that. I mean, like direct evidence. And this is just fact. I'm just going to lay it out there.
Mm-hmm.
We've all seen the red handprints in like Chauvet, right? Alaska, right? We've seen those.
Yes.
Spain, red ochre, right? Which is iron, basically. And don't know exactly for sure, but probably put in the mouth and then blown on the hands and made these handprints on the caves, right?
Yeah.
That exact technique of red ochre, the same pigment in the hand, is found on every continent. Patagonia. Go to the Far East, go to the Far West. Cave systems all in between. 30,000 years ago, these artists were doing the exact same thing with the exact same pigment. Now, what does that say? I think they communicated. I think they hung out with each other at a minimum. To the extreme, was somebody else teaching them about this? Was somebody trading red ochre pigment, down a trade route around the world and showing everybody how to paint stuff on caves? I don't know. Was there an ancient advanced civilization before that? Or were they going into an interdimensional situation where they were hanging out with each other and seeing each other in an interdimensional sense and teaching and learning? I don't know. But the handprints with red ochre around the world at the same time is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You look at the bulls that are painted in these caves in Germany and France and in Spain. Look at those bulls. Picasso, those bulls were some of the most beautiful art ever created by any human at any time. It just happened to be 40,000 years ago, right? 30,000 years ago. Picasso replicated those cave paintings. Have you ever seen Picasso's? He's got a series. It's like 8 or 10 drawings that he did of the bulls, right? So he started very primitive, and then he went up, and then the last bull is done with one stroke of a pen, right? The horns are just like you know what I mean? It's like a stick figure. Okay, so advanced, and look how it's good, but Picasso struggled with it. It's not anything as tasty as what was created 40,000 years ago. And that says a lot. That says a lot. Picasso stuff was good. All I'm suggesting here is when you look at that, we are lying to ourselves about who those humans were.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of stories. In the astral, they say there's temples, there's ashrams, there's places where you go and learn in the astral. So if that is what people are experiencing today, wouldn't it be the same 40,000 years ago where one group on one side of the planet and the other group on the other side of the planet could meet up in that space in the dream time to share knowledge and ideas? This could possibly be the most ancient form of communication that we have lost. And I forget who said this quote, but I love this quote. It says, like, everything that we've created in our modern times comes out of a sense of loss. As in everything that we do, let's say like talking to you right now. I'm in Toronto, you're in LA. We built this structure because it's something that we've lost in the past, but it's known to us. It's familiar to us. So maybe 40,000 years ago, we had this kind of telepathy, astral travel thing down perfectly.
Right.
And we could just sit down, tune in, and start talking to one another. We don't know because we don't have those records. But you have certain cases today of people having these psychic abilities that say, yes, we can do this, and let me show you. Maybe it was worldwide.
The telepathy tapes.
Yeah.
Where the kids, or I'm saying kids, some were adults, would gather at what they called, I think it was the Hill, right? Their little party spot where they would all get together and hang out and talk and share ideas and say hello. And all of that done interdimensionally.
And you just kind of piqued memories. Years and years ago, when I had a couple very psychic friends, we would sit and we talk and we'd say, do you remember this park that we'd all play at when we were little, and we would all play together and talk to one another? And then you realize, wait a second, that park never existed, but we were there. So it was like, was it like this dream park that our friends would come and connect to when we were children? Because we all remember this park, but it doesn't exist. We can't go back there physically. We don't know where this park is.
So I hang on for a second.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap with this. Okay. I'm just gonna pull this up just for grins. Why? Because I can. This is my show. All right. I just find this incredible. All right, so here it is. This is The Bull by Pablo Picasso. All right, and so he's just replicating what was on the cave walls, right? And then he ends up, you can see the stick figures on the end that were almost drawn with like one continuous line.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But as good as these are, and when you compare these to the Lascaux caves and what he was attempting here, the Lascaux caves and Chauvet are I'm gonna say it. I hate to be like this, but they're better. He tried to capture it, but it's just doesn't have the magic.
No.
That his stuff doesn't have the magic. But there it is.
And you also have to remember was there light in the cave? You know,
Isn't that the biggest for me? That's one of the biggest mysteries, because if you go back, Lascaux, or any one of those caves, it doesn't matter. They are deep inside that cave, deep.
Yeah.
And in some cases, like Lascaux, they were continuously occupied for 5,000 years. That artwork spans 5,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
5,000 years, and it's deep. It's deep, man. Go to Castillo in Spain, and you go to the back part of that cave where some of the original stuff is. That's the one where they have the red circles that are a row of dots. It's like 4 wide. Very interesting too. I'm still trying to figure out that symbology there, why it's done the way it is. But that is done in a deep, deep, dark, so how did they light up that cave?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's all these, we really did lose our past. And, we know that there is something special there. And that's why we're all trying to get there and learn about these things. But, it's only recently that we found these things. So with
By
archaeology,
accident too. Yeah, by accident too. By accident. Yeah, for sure, by accident. The Lascaux was discovered by a couple of kids that were walking their dog. World War II, by the way. It's not modern. I mean, that's not an ancient discovery. A couple of 100 years ago. No, man, this is all modern stuff.
yes.
Very fascinating to me. Jason, listen, man, where can everybody go and order the book?
You can go on Amazon to get the book very quickly. So if you could just type in Astral Experiences, Jason Quitt on Amazon, you'll probably get it in a couple days. If you want, from my website, thecrystalsun.com, you can get it there. But I think Canada Post is going on a postal strike tomorrow again. So
is that right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, see, if you guys were the 51st state, you wouldn't have these issues.
Yeah. So I would suggest Amazon right now. But you can find it there. But thank you for having me on with this. And I can't wait to share this at Contact in the Desert too.
I'll see you next week. We will be having dinner 1 week from today, my friend. 1 week from today. Dinner's on me. All right.
I will see you in 1 week.
Safe travels, Jason. Give my best to Monica.
I will. And goodbye to all the Fadernauts and everybody in the chat. Thank you for watching.
You're the best. Jason Quitt. Safe travels, my friend.
You too.
And that's it. I will see Jason in a week. Everybody come out to Contact in the Desert. It is in Palm Springs, California. Links for it are below. And with that, I'm going to depart. I'm going to start my very busy weekend that is lying out there in front of me. I'll see everybody right back here on Monday. Until then, all I've got is go backly tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intros Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy.